The diner was loud with clattering dishes and the steady hum of conversations. Yet in the middle of all the noise, Keanu Reeves felt strangely alone. He had been traveling quietly. No red carpets, no press events, no bodyguards. He wore simple clothes, a plain jacket, and his usual humility that made him blend into the crowd. He had chosen this small roadside diner because it looked ordinary. Keanu liked ordinary places. He liked the way people laughed without filters, how families shared stories over pancakes, how waitresses carried trays with tired smiles but still asked, "How's your day going?" He found peace in places where no one expected him to be anyone but another face at a table. But as he sat down, a small shadow of the past began to rise before him. Because at the far corner, with her back bent and her hair tied in a messy knot, he saw a woman cleaning tables. Her uniform was worn, her shoes faded, but there was something about the way she moved, something achingly familiar. Keanu blinked, his heart thudding harder. It couldn't be. Not here. Not now. She turned slightly, her profile catching the dull light of the diner's neon sign. And in that moment, Keanu's chest tightened. It was her, the woman he had once loved, the woman he had once thought he would spend his life with, his ex. She looked different now, older perhaps, with a tiredness etched into her face. But he knew her. No amount of years or distance could erase the memory of her smile, her voice, the way she used to look at him when the world outside felt too heavy. Keanu's mind spun back through time. He remembered the nights when they had walked under city lights talking about dreams and fears. He remembered how she used to believe in him even before the world did. And he remembered how it ended. Quietly, painfully, with words unsaid and wounds left unhealed. And now here she was, cleaning tables in a diner. She hadn't noticed him yet. She moved quickly, her hands steady as she wiped down surfaces, stacking plates with practiced skill. Keanu sat frozen, torn between rising to greet her or slipping away unnoticed. His heart whispered, "Go to her." But his fear asked, "What? If she doesn't want to see you?" The moment stretched endlessly until fate chose for him. She turned again and her eyes met his. Time stopped. For a second, she didn't recognize him. Then her breath caught, her hand froze on the tablecloth and the cloth slipped from her fingers. Her eyes widened, and a flicker of old memories passed through them. "Keanu," she whispered, barely audible, but he heard it. The noise of the diner seemed to fade into silence. Every sound, every voice, every clink of silverware disappeared, leaving only the two of them staring across the room. Keanu stood slowly, his chair scraping softly against the floor. His voice was calm, but his chest ached. "It's been a long time." She swallowed hard, her throat tight. "What are you doing here?" Keanu gave a small, almost sad smile. "I could ask you the same thing." Her eyes lowered, shame flickering across her face. This is where life brought me." He wanted to say something, anything to ease the weight in her voice, but the word stuck. He had imagined meeting her again someday, but not like this. Never like this. The manager's voice broke the moment. "Linda, stop standing around. Table, 7 needs clearing." She flinched, nodding quickly, and turned away from him to continue working. Keanu's chest tightened at the sound of her name, the name he used to say with tenderness. He sat back down slowly, but his eyes never left her. And as he watched her move from table to table, something inside him shifted. He knew he couldn't just walk away. Not this time. The past had brought them back together for a reason, and deep inside, Keanu felt it. Her story was not over, and neither was his. Keanu sat at his table, pretending to study the menu, but his eyes kept drifting back, to her. Linda. The name echoed in his chest like a memory that refused to fade. He remembered how he used to whisper it softly, how it once meant safety, laughter, and home. But now, she wore a tired smile as she carried plates, her shoulders slightly hunched as though the world had pressed down on her for too long. She spoke, politely to customers, but Keanu noticed the way her eyes avoided theirs. She was surviving, not living. His coffee arrived, placed in front of him by a young waitress who clearly didn't recognize who he was. That was fine. Keanu liked it that way. He wanted no distractions, no fanfare. His focus was on her. Every time Linda passed his table, her hands trembled slightly and her eyes flickered with emotion she couldn't hide. The past between them hung heavy in the space, 1,000 unspoken words pressing into the air. Finally, when her shift slowed, she approached cautiously. She stood by his table, her cloth still in hand. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. Keanu looked up, his voice low but steady. "Why not?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because the past should stay in the past." He studied her carefully. "Sometimes the past finds us anyway." She glanced away, her chest rising and falling quickly. "I don't need pity, Keanu. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, don't. I'm fine." But he saw through it. Her uniform was worn, her hands rough from work, her smile a mask stretched too thin. "She wasn't fine. You don't have to explain," he said gently. "But I'm not here out of pity. I'm here because fate put me here." Her eyes flashed, a mixture of anger and sadness. "Fate? Fate didn't bring me here. Bad choices did. Life did. I lost everything, Keanu. I lost us, and I've been paying for it ever since." The words hit him like stones. He wanted to reach for her to tell her she wasn't alone, but she stepped back, her pride building a wall between them. The manager's voice cut in again, louder this time. "Linda, less talking, more working." She flinched, muttered a quick apology, and hurried away. Keanu clenched his fists under the table. Something inside him stirred. Anger, not at her, but at the way she was treated, the way her spirit seemed dimmed. Later, when the diner emptied out, Keanu remained. He watched as Linda wiped down the last of the tables. Her movements were slower now, her body clearly aching. As she reached for her coat, Keanu stood and walked toward her. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then sighed. 5 minutes, that's all I can give." They stepped outside into the cool night air. The street was quiet, only the distant sound of cars passing by. Keanu turned to her. "Why didn't you tell me?" She frowned. "Tell you what?" "About your life, about how hard it's been." Her laugh was bitter, broken. "You think we stayed in touch? You think after we ended I could come running to you with my problems? You had your world, Keanu. Your movies, your fame, your life. I had mine. And mine fell apart." His chest ached as she spoke. He wanted to deny it, to tell her he would have been there, but he knew she was right. Their paths had split and he had never looked back until now. "Linda," he said softly, "I never stopped caring. Maybe I didn't show it. Maybe I failed you back then. But seeing you like this, I can't just walk away." Her eyes shimmered. With tears she tried to hold back. "Don't make promises you can't keep. I've had enough of those." She turned to leave, but Keanu gently touched her arm. "Then let me prove it. Not with words, with actions." She froze, staring at him, torn between anger and hope. Finally she whispered, "Why now? Why after all these years?" Keanu's answer was simple, but it carried the weight of truth. "Because sometimes we only see clearly when life forces us to stop. And right now I see you." Linda's tears finally spilled, but she quickly turned away, not letting him see her fully break. "Go home, Keanu. You don't belong in my world anymore." She walked into the night, leaving him standing under the flickering diner sign, his heart heavy but determined. He watched her fade into the darkness, and he whispered to himself, "Then I'll make your world mine, if that's what it takes." The night after seeing Linda again, Keanu could not sleep. He sat by the window of his hotel room staring at the city lights. Her face haunted him. The tired eyes, the faded smile, the way her voice broke when she said she had lost everything. He thought of the past, of how they had once dreamed together. She had believed in him before the world did. She was there when he had nothing, when he was just another struggling actor. She used to tell him, You'll make it, Keanu. I know you will. And she had been right. But while his world had risen, hers had collapsed. The next day he returned to the diner. He sat at the same table waiting. When Linda walked in, her eyes widened slightly, but she quickly looked away, pretending not to notice him. She picked up her cloth and began wiping tables. After a while, she finally came over. You again? She asked, her tone sharp but her hands trembling. I told you, he said softly. I'm not walking away this time. She shook her head. This isn't one of your movies, Keanu. Life doesn't always give happy endings. He studied her quietly. Maybe not, but it can give second chances. She laughed bitterly. Second chances? I had mine and I wasted it. Tell me what happened, he said gently. Her face tightened. No. Please, Keanu insisted. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. Her hands clenched around the cloth. For a long moment she said nothing. Then finally her voice cracked. After we ended, I tried to build something new. I married someone else. I thought he would take care of me. But he left me with nothing. Debts, lies, empty promises. And when he was gone, all I had was shame. I couldn't go back to my family. I couldn't face anyone. So I took whatever work I could find. This diner, it keeps me alive, but that's all. Her words were heavy, each one cutting into Keanu's chest. He wanted to reach for her, to hold her, but she pulled back, her pride still strong. I don't need saving, she said sharply. I'm not here to save you, he replied softly. I'm here to stand beside you. She froze, her eyes wide. No one had ever said that to her. Before she could answer, the manager stormed over. Linda, less talking, more working, or you can find another job. She flinched, lowering her head. Yes, sir. Keanu's jaw tightened. The man walked away, but Keanu leaned forward. You shouldn't let him treat you like that. Her voice was small. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice, Keanu whispered. But she only shook her head and walked away. Later that night, when her shift ended, Keanu waited outside. She stepped out, surprised to see him still there. You're stubborn, she said softly. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but only because you matter. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she turned away quickly. Stop saying things like that. I don't know how to believe them anymore. Keanu's heart ached. He wanted to tell her that he had once been broken too, that he had lost people he loved, that he understood pain and emptiness, but he also knew words alone wouldn't convince her, so instead he simply said, Then let me show you. She looked at him, her walls trembling. Why? Why me? His answer was quiet, but it carried truth. Because when the world doubted, me you didn't. Now it's my turn. Her tears spilled and she whispered, I don't deserve that. Keanu stepped closer, his voice steady. Yes, you do. As she walked away into the night, Keanu felt the weight of a decision pressing on him. He couldn't let this end with words. He would prove with actions that she was not forgotten, not abandoned, not unworthy of love. But he also sensed something else. There was more to her story, something she hadn't told him yet. A shadow in her eyes, a secret hidden behind her, pain, and he knew sooner or later that secret would come out. The following days became a quiet rhythm. Keanu returned to the diner each morning, sitting at the same table, ordering the same coffee, waiting for Linda to appear. At first, she tried to avoid him. She buried herself in work, moving quickly from table to table, her eyes downcast. But no matter how much she tried to push him away, she couldn't ignore the truth. He was still there. His presence became impossible to overlook. He wasn't loud or demanding. He simply waited. Sometimes he read a book. Sometimes he just watched people. But every time she looked up, his eyes were steady, patient, and kind. One afternoon, when the diner was quieter, she finally approached him. Why are you doing this, Keanu? Don't you have a life, a career, something more important than sitting in this old diner every day? He looked up at her with calm eyes. Nothing is more important than keeping a promise I made to myself. I told you I wouldn't walk away. And I meant it. Her lips trembled. You don't understand. I'm not the person I used to be. I'm not the girl you loved. Keanu shook his head gently. You're still her. Maybe life has made you tired. Maybe it's added scars. But you're still her. And I see her even if you don't anymore. His words cracked something inside her. She turned quickly, hiding her tears as the manager shouted her name again. Later that night, after her shift ended, Keanu offered to walk her home. At first, she refused, but when he quietly followed at a distance, she gave up and let him. The streets were dim, the neon lights of closed shops glowing faintly. Her apartment was small, tucked above a laundromat, the kind of place where the walls were thin and the windows rattled when trucks passed. She unlocked the door and hesitated. You shouldn't see this. But Keanu only said, Linda, I don't care where you live, I care how you're living. Inside, the apartment was simple, but worn. A single couch with a torn cushion, a stack of unpaid bills on the table, and a shelf with old photographs that caught Keanu's eye. He moved closer and picked one up. It was of Linda, younger, smiling brightly. In her arms was a little boy, maybe 4 years old. Keanu froze. Who is this? He asked softly. Linda's face went pale. Her hands shook as she reached for the photo. Give that back. He handed it to her, his voice low. Linda, you have a child? Her eyes filled with tears. She sank onto the couch, holding the photo to her chest. Had, she whispered. His name was Daniel. Keanu's heart clenched. What happened? She sobbed softly, her voice breaking. He got sick, and I couldn't afford the treatment. I worked double shifts, I begged for help, but it wasn't enough. I lost him. I lost everything. The room grew heavy with silence. Keanu sat beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. His own memories of loss came rushing back, the people he had loved and lost, the grief that never truly left. He understood her pain in a way few others could. Linda, he whispered. You didn't fail him. You fought for him. You did everything you could. She shook her head violently. No, a real mother would have saved him. I couldn't. And now I live with that every day. Keanu's throat tightened. You're wrong. Love isn't measured by outcomes, it's measured by the fight. And you fought for him with everything you had. Her tears fell freely, her body trembling. For the first time, she let herself collapse into his arms, letting years of grief pour out. Keanu held her quietly. No words, no promises. Just presence. When her sobs finally softened, she pulled away, embarrassed. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want you to see how far I've fallen. Keanu looked at her, his voice firm but kind. Linda, you didn't fall. You survived. And that takes more strength than anyone realizes. She stared at him, her lips trembling, her defenses breaking one piece at a time. Why do you still care? She whispered. His answer was simple, but it carried all the weight of truth. Because once you love someone, you don't unlove them. The form may change, the years may pass, but the heart remembers. Her tears spilled again, but this time they weren't just of grief, they carried something else, a fragile hope she hadn't felt in years. As Keanu left that night, he looked back at her small apartment window glowing faintly in the dark. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. Healing never was. But now he understood the depth of her pain, the secret she had carried alone for so long. And he made a silent vow. He would not let her carry it alone anymore. The next morning, Keanu returned to the diner. He carried no disguise, no sunglasses, nothing to hide who he was. He knew the risk. If people recognized him, whispers would spread. But he didn't care. Linda mattered more than rumors. She saw him the moment he walked in. Her face tightened and she quickly moved behind the counter, trying to keep busy. When he sat down, she approached reluctantly. You shouldn't be here. she said under her breath. Why not? He asked softly. Because people will notice. Because this is my life now and you don't belong in it. You're you. And I'm just a waitress in a cheap diner. Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm but steady. Titles don't matter. What matters is people. And you're not just anything. You're Linda. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but the years of struggle had taught her otherwise. You don't understand. Pity is worse than loneliness. And I don't need your pity. He shook his head. This isn't pity. This is respect. Respect for the woman who once believed in me when no one else did. Respect for the woman who fought to survive when the world gave her nothing. Before she could answer, the manager walked over, scowling. Linda, are you working or chatting? Keanu stood, his calmness giving way to quiet strength. She's working harder than anyone in this place. Maybe you should treat her with some respect. The manager sneered. And who are you to tell me how to run my diner? Some customers were beginning to recognize Keanu now. Murmurs rippled through the room. Phones lifted discreetly. The manager's expression shifted as realization struck. This was not just any man. Keanu leaned closer, his voice low but firm. I'm someone who knows her worth. Something you clearly don't. The manager, suddenly unsure, muttered something under his breath and walked away. Linda's cheeks burned with shame and anger. Why did you do that? She hissed. Now, he'll make things harder for me. Keanu's eyes softened. Because no one should speak to you that way. She turned away, her pride battling with the truth she didn't want to admit. That part of her felt seen for the first time in years. After her shift, she found him waiting outside again. She sighed, exhausted. Why are you doing this, Keanu? Why can't you just let me be? He stepped closer, his voice steady. Because you're surviving, not living. And you deserve more than that. What if I don't? She whispered bitterly. Then let me remind you. He replied. She stared at him, her defenses breaking piece by piece. You can't fix me. You can't erase what happened. I know, he said gently. But maybe together we can build something new. Her tears welled again, but she quickly turned away. Stop, please. I don't know how to trust anymore. Keanu hesitated, then spoke from a place deep inside his own wounds. I've lost people too, Linda. I know what it feels like to wake up every day with emptiness sitting on your chest. I know what it means to carry grief so heavy it never lets you breathe. I know. And that's why I won't walk away. Because no one should fight it alone. Her shoulders shook and she pressed her hands to her face. You don't know what you're asking. If you step into my life, you'll carry my scars too. Keanu's voice was calm, but strong. Then let me carry them. I've carried my own long. Enough. Maybe we can share the weight. The days that followed brought change. Keanu started small. He helped her pay off some of the bills she had been drowning in, but he did it quietly, slipping envelopes under her door so she wouldn't feel humiliated. He visited the diner not as a customer now, but as a friend who sat with her during breaks, listening to her stories, letting her remember what it felt like to be heard. But not everything was easy. Linda fought him at every step. Her pride flared. Her fear of depending on him made her lash out. One evening she confronted him angrily outside her apartment. Why are you interfering? Do you think money fixes everything? Do you think your fame makes you some kind of savior? Keanu didn't flinch. No, I don't think money fixes pain. I don't think fame means anything. I think kindness matters. And if kindness is all I have to give, then I'll keep giving it. Her anger broke into tears. I don't know how to accept it. I don't know how to believe this is real. Keanu's voice softened. Then let me show you day by day until you do. But just as a fragile trust began to grow between them, a new shadow emerged. One evening, as they walked together down her street, a man appeared from the corner. Tall, rough-looking, his eyes sharp with bitterness. Well, he sneered. Look who's playing hero now. Linda froze, her face draining of color. "No," she whispered. Keanu stepped protectively in front of her. "Who are you?" The man's lips curled into a smirk. "I'm the one she doesn't want you to know about. The mistake she married. The one who left her with nothing." Linda's hands shook as her past stood before her, no longer hidden. Keanu's eyes darkened, steady but burning with resolve. This was the truth he had sensed, the final piece of Linda's story standing right there in the flesh, and he knew this confrontation would change everything. The street grew silent as the man stepped closer, his smirk turning into a sneer. Linda's body trembled, her hands clutching the edge of her coat as if it could protect her from the memories rushing back. Keanu positioned himself between them, his shoulders firm, his voice calm, but sharp. "You should leave." The man laughed coldly. "Oh, I'm not here for you, Reeves. I'm here for her. She still owes me. Debts don't just disappear." Linda's eyes filled with fear. "I don't owe you anything. You took everything. You left me with nothing but shame. And you still wear it, don't you?" He snapped, his words cutting like knives. Keanu's jaw tightened, his voice dropped lower, controlled but steady. "Enough. She doesn't belong to you. She never did. And you won't hurt her again." The man scoffed. "And what? You're going to save her? Play the hero? She's broken. She'll always be broken." For a moment, Linda's breath caught. The words dug deep into old wounds. She looked down, her spirit shaking. But then, she felt Keanu's hand gently brush hers, grounding her, reminding her she wasn't alone. "No," Keanu said firmly, looking straight at the man. "She's not broken. She's stronger than anyone I know. You left her to drown, and she survived. That doesn't make her weak. It makes her unstoppable." The man sneered, but something in Keanu's steady eyes made him hesitate. A silence stretched between them before he muttered something under his breath and stepped back into the shadows, disappearing down the street. Linda collapsed onto the curb, her body trembling, tears pouring down her face. "He's right," she whispered. "I'm broken, Keanu. I'll always be broken." Keanu knelt beside her, his voice low but powerful. "No, Linda. Broken is when you give up. Broken is when you stop fighting. You fought for your child. You fought to survive. When life took everything, you wake up every day and keep going. That's not broken. That's courage," she sobbed, shaking her head. "But I lost so much." "So did I," Keanu whispered. His own memories rose, loved ones gone too soon, empty rooms filled with silence. But loss doesn't define us. What defines us is what we do with the pain. We can let it bury us, or we can use it to grow. Linda looked at him, her eyes raw and searching. "And you? Why do you care so much, after all these years?" His answer was soft, but steady, carrying the weight of truth. "Because once you love someone, that love doesn't vanish. It changes, it waits, it bends, but it doesn't die. And because when I look at you, I don't see failure. I see the same woman who once believed in me. And now, it's my turn to believe in you." Her tears slowed. Her breathing steadied. For the first time in years, she let the words sink in, not as pity but as truth. Keanu reached for her hand, not to pull her up, but to let her know he was beside her. "You don't have to do this alone anymore." A long silence followed, broken only by the faint hum of traffic. Then Linda squeezed his hand, weakly at first, then with strength. "Then don't leave." "I won't," Keanu promised. Weeks passed. The diner still stood, but things were different now. Linda no longer carried the same heavy shadow in her eyes. With Keanu's quiet support, she began to rebuild, not just her life, but her spirit. He helped her settle debts, but more than that, he reminded her daily of her worth. Customers at the diner began to notice too. Her smile, once forced, began to look real. Her laugh, once silent, began to return. One evening after her shift, she stepped outside to find Keanu waiting. The night was calm, stars faintly visible. I don't know what the future holds, she said softly. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can hope again. Keanu smiled gently. Then that's enough. Hope is where everything begins. They walked side by side down the quiet street, their steps steady, not rushing, not forcing, just moving forward together. Because sometimes life doesn't give us perfect endings. Sometimes it gives us second chances. Unexpected, undeserved, but deeply needed. And for Keanu and Linda, their reunion wasn't about rewriting the past. It was about building a new chapter, one written with resilience, forgiveness, and the kind of love that survives even when everything else fades.